Welcome to another edition of Teach the Geek interviews. My name is Neil Thompson. I'm the founder of Teach the Geek. It's an online platform for science and engineering professionals. The first offering of the platform is a public speaking course called Teach the Geek to Speak. To learn more about it, you can go to teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Today, my guest is Callie Carpenter. She is a design engineer in the medical device industry. I'm really curious to find out more about her current position, the way in which public speaking has benefited her, and any tips that she has to get better at public speaking. Welcome to Teach the Geek interviews, Callie.
Thanks for having me, Neil. Happy to be here today.
Wonderful. So from the bit of research I did on you, I saw that you got your undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering. What was the motivation to get that degree?
Well, growing up, I always liked math, ever since I was really little. And then I got into physics and found I really enjoyed that in high school. I enjoyed all the sciences, but especially physics. So that led me to get my bachelor's in mechanical engineering, just to see how the world works and to apply math and science to it and to do something hands-on as well, where I got to really look at things and be able to feel and touch, and figure out how things worked and to build things, to take things apart as well.
Oh, wow. That's a really great answer. It's a much better answer that I would give if I was given that question. For the longest while, I used to lie about why I got into engineering because other people had more interesting answers like yourself. They had interests in math and physics. I wasn't interested in either. I became an engineer and went to engineering school because my father said that I should. And that's the main reason. Luckily it worked out. But man, if it hadn't, I'd be very depressed right now.
Yeah.
But for everyone out there, I mean, engineering can work. It can work out, but man, try to actually want to do it before you go into it, as opposed to doing something that someone else said. That's my advice going forward. But then, I saw you also got a master's in bioengineering. So what was the motivation to get a master's? You just wanted to do more school?
Yeah, great question, Neil. Actually, I enjoyed college. I wasn't quite ready to get out, but really it was for the industry that I wanted to go into. Getting my mechanical engineering degree from Oklahoma State. Anybody that recruits in Oklahoma usually is either aerospace or oil and gas, which are two great industries. They just were not a great fit for me. I wanted to do something to really see the impact of my work in a more tangible way on people. So I thought to get involved in medical devices, and applying right out of there, with my bachelor's in mechanical from Oklahoma, it just wasn't working for me. I wasn't even getting callbacks from companies. And so I thought, well, I'll go get my master's. That'll get my foot in the door. And it worked. It got my foot in the door and really got me some experience in the industry as well. And I found out pretty quickly that I love it. It's great being able to impact people and see what I'm doing in healthcare, to watch patients and their lives are better because of what I'm working on, which is just an amazing feeling.
So you got your bachelor's, you got your master's. When are you getting the PhD?
I don't know if that one's coming. I did a professional master's because I'm not a huge fan of research. So probably not up to a PhD.
Okay, so master's is about as far as you're gonna go,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah,
Okay.
I think so. But never say never. I mean, you never know.
Yeah, for sure. So now you got your bachelor's in mechanical. You were applying for jobs, but you weren't getting any call back. You decided, I'll get a master's, and hopefully that helps. It ends up helping. You get a job doing something. What did the work that you ended up doing? Is that what you planned on doing, or did it kind of just happen that way?
Um, it kind of happened. So I was looking for jobs and trying to figure out what type of jobs that I wanted to get after my master's, and was really applying for everything, which I would encourage anyone out there who's applying for jobs, even if you don't meet the criteria, apply for them. I was applying for jobs right out of college that required 6 or 8 years of experience. So of course, nobody gave me callbacks for those, but I have to smile at my audacity there. And I would encourage anyone listening to go ahead and apply, even if you don't meet 100% of the criteria. But really what I was looking for once I got into it and started really thinking about which roles that I was actually interested in was a rotational program. So that's I ended up landing that one to really figure out, okay, what do I want to do? There's so many different roles you can take with engineering, even in the medical device field, whether it be quality or testing or design or post market or sustaining or anything like that. And so for me to get that experience of actually in the shoes of those different roles for 6 months at a time really helped me figure out where I fit best. I was surprised at some of the things I liked and some of the things that I didn't as well. Sometimes you just never know until you try it.
So when you finished undergrad, well, you finished your master's degree, did all the jobs you applied for, were they all engineering jobs, or did you even branch out even more and apply for non-engineering jobs?
I applied for some project management jobs as well. So not just strictly to engineering, but mostly I did stick with the engineering because that was still my passion and the technical aspects of it.
What about project management interest you?
Really, it was just another job in the medical field. But it is interesting to me to look at the management of projects, trying to get everyone to work together to a common goal and taking everyone's specialties and their strengths and looking at that and being able to all work together to get a project through the finish line, really, and to get to work on, still cool projects in the medical device industry.
I think it's pretty cool that you even knew what project management was coming out of school. I didn't learn what project management was until a few years actually working as an engineer, and was then introduced to me. And then I actually ended up taking on that type of role because the company that I worked at didn't have project managers, and they asked the engineers to take on that role. And it really, that's where Teach the Geek even was birthed from, is from having to give these presentations in front of management every month and not being all that great at it. So there was a lot of growing pains there, for at least for me. And I think for the others too, because it's not as if I was the worst one out there giving those presentations. Other guys were wetting the bed just like I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, engineers aren't exactly known for public speaking, that's for sure. I'm
Yeah,
curious.
not at all.
I'm curious about this rotational program that you were on. So what departments did you rotate through, and what did you like and dislike about them?
I had several design rotations, which is what I ultimately chose as design engineer because I really found I had a passion for that, to get to create something from scratch, to have an idea and be able to model it up and then see it take shape as I prototype and get to show it to customers as well. I also rotated through quality, which was
Ooh,
interesting too.
ooh,
Um,
gross.
yeah, that's usually people's reactions. I was not a huge fan of all the paperwork within that.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
But there were definitely some usability things that were pretty cool there. Looking at human factors engineering for our quality of our new products. So how do the users actually interact with it? What's that interface look like? Where are the risks associated with that? Of, okay, if they do something wrong here because it's not intuitive, then what happens? And then I rotated through our test lab as well, which is always fun.
Yeah,
You
test is fun.
set up a test and you get to break stuff all day long.
But then, so those are the three that you picked, or that you rotated through, but that you picked design ultimately. I guess the fact that quality had a lot of paperwork, and what was the issue you had with not picking testing?
So I wanted to be more on an actual project. Testing, they ended up getting a lot of tests over and over again. Or you get a lot of new tests too. So you're doing a different thing every week. But I wanted to kind of stick with something for a couple of years.
I got you. So you're working in design engineering, and I'm assuming you like this because that's what you ended up
Yeah.
picking. Do you have any plans on what you want to do going forward from design?
I'm not entirely sure. There's a couple of routes that are open. The project management route, which we mentioned, the people management route, and then if I want to stay technical as well. Right now, I still really enjoy the technical, so that's where I'm thinking, but you never know, 5 years down the road or maybe even 2 years down the road, things may change quite a bit. So I try to leave my options open.
When it comes to managing people, what do you, in your opinion, what are the best, or what are the optimal characteristics of someone who manages people?
Oh, good question. I would
That's what I do
say,
here. I ask good questions.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I would say number one is just that they care about people. You have to care about the people under you to manage well. And if you care about the people that you're managing, then that covers a lot of other things that you can do well or not so well. If you always have their best intentions and their best interests at heart. So I would say that's the number one. And then just some other characteristics are organizational skills, communication skills, um, time management. Um, let's see, public speaking. Definitely, they have to give quite a few presentations. Um, the conflict resolution as well, planning skills, um, and really just experience too. If they've been in your shoes, then that helps a lot. So if you're managing technical people, it helps if you've been a technical person for at least a couple of
Ooh.
years,
Ooh.
just so when they say, okay, it's going to take me 2 weeks, or maybe I can do that what you just asked of me. Then the manager knows a little bit more of what they're asking and the pushback that they're getting there.
Interesting. I fully agree with you about conflict resolution, and that's the main reason I never wanted to be a manager of people, because I didn't want to deal with other people's conflicts. I got enough problems in my life. I got to deal with
Yeah.
other people's problems too. I was like, no, thank you. So I would stay technical. But I think you mentioned, and then you also mentioned, oh, what was the one you mentioned that I really liked? I don't remember now. But public speaking, yeah, that's a good one. Oh, here it is. When you said the part about having a technical background to manage technical people, that's really interesting. You say that. So if you were to have a manager that didn't have that background, would that would be an issue for you?
No, I mean, I think it depends on how the manager handles it. So if you have a manager that doesn't have a technical background, then they really have to trust the people that they're managing more and take them at their word and face value. So when they tell you, hey, it's going to be 2 weeks, well, you can't try to talk them down to 1 week. If they tell you it's 2 weeks, then it's 2 weeks, and that's just how it is technically. And so I think it's a different management style. Um, to me, I think it's a good characteristic, but it's not something that you absolutely have to have. I think if you have good people skills and good management skills, then you can manage any sort of people, any team, even if it's a team that you don't exactly have the same experience as they do.
When I think about project management specifically, at least for a while, well, actually even now, I'm a member of Project Management International. Their San Diego chapter close to where I live, and PMI is very big on saying that if you're a project manager, you should be able to manage any project, regardless of industry. You should be industry agnostic. But I found, I worked in medical devices too, and the people that were project managers, they tended to be technical people. They were engineers at one point, and they likely got promoted. Yeah, they got promoted into that role as project manager. And that's kind of what these companies prefer to do. So I think it's yeah, I fully believe what you're saying about having some technical background, because a lot of times these companies won't even give you that shot unless you have it. And you know what? Even not having that background won't stop people from asking for something in 1 week as opposed to 2.
True.
They gonna
True.
push the envelope no matter what. Whatever the background is, they always want everything quicker, cheaper, and better quality.
Yeah. Yeah. All of the above.
Yeah, no question. So you mentioned public speaking skills as a skill that it would be beneficial to a manager of people. But in regards to yourself, when did you realize that public speaking could be of benefit to you in your career?
Actually, my first internship, I had a couple internships in the oil and gas industry. So that first internship, we had a final presentation that we had to give to the CEO of the company and some of the C-suite executives. And that's really, there was a lot of emphasis put on that presentation. I remember my boss and my coworkers were practicing it with me and giving me feedback again and again and again. And I think that's the key to good presentations is practice. And you just keep practicing. But that's when I realized, this is a big deal. getting to present to the CEO of a company. And if I do well, which I did thanks to all the support that I had in the practice, then it really reflects well on me. And suddenly I have exposure to move up, exposure career wise. You know, if the CEO knows your name and remembers, oh yeah, they had a good presentation, I remember that. Or if there's one, you know, key point about the presentation that they remember, then that's a success, just from a career perspective. And I think even if there's not a presentation like that you're gearing up for, public speaking happens all the time. I mean, you're talking to people, you're talking in meetings, you're doing presentations on your project, on your work. You know, it's a fabulous way to get exposure to yourself. If you if you're not able to kind of market the work that you've done, unfortunately, in our work the world that we live in, if you can't kind of market yourself and show what you've done, people aren't always going to see what's done in the background. So we as engineers, I think, have to get better at that, of showing what we've done in a way that's easy for others to understand and see, and kind of shows off our skills and our work.
Man, you're way more advanced than I was at your at your point. I mean, you knew going into engineering about project management. I didn't know that. You knew about the importance of public speaking going into your first engineering job. I didn't know that either. I had to figure all that out, years later. Okay, you know what? I'm tired of looking like a fool every time I have to give these presentations in front of management, so I got to get better at this. But you knew that going into it from your first internship. So, kudos to you. So
Yeah, I had a lot of good mentors along the way that helped me to understand all this stuff.
okay, so that was the part that I did. I guess I didn't have I didn't have any mentors really guiding me. I was kind of figuring things out as I go. So great. It's great that you had those people in your life that were able to guide you. So when it comes to public speaking, I know you'd said that you did it for that presentation for your first internship, but even before that, is public speaking something that you were good at? And if not, what have you done to get better at it?
It was definitely not something I was good at to start. I think I had a couple classes in high school where we had to get up and talk in front of people, and there's always butterflies in your stomach before you're gonna talk. I've done so many presentations by now and spoken at a lot of different things. But even I was getting up and doing a prayer and at my friend's wedding the other day in front of maybe 20 people, and I got up there thinking, oh, it was no big deal. And then as soon as I looked out at the people, my stomach started doing flip flops. And I think I said a lot more ums and uhs than I meant to there. So I think that's just practice, I would say, is the number one. Practice by yourself, get a couple friends, get them to give you feedback, watch some TED Talks and look at what those people do, how they walk around stage, look at presentations, look at a lot of marketing presentations too. If you're looking at how to design your slides and things, they have a lot of good designs, or use a slide template. Those are lifesavers. They design a whole lot better than I ever could. They're smart graphics in PowerPoint. I use those, a lot of shortcuts for people like me that just, I can't tell if it's a good design or not. And
You're
then
a design engineer.
yeah, but slide design, give me a mechanical device, I'll tell you if that one's a good one, but right. Not color palettes.
Got you. Yeah, you know what? I must agree with you there. I was never that big I guess a slide maker, I guess. It's always something I kind of look at after the fact, but then, it can be important. You're absolutely right in being able to keep people's attention. And I really like your idea of looking at TED Talks. And the people that give TED Talks have been through some sort of training, some sort of speaker training. All of them, I believe, it's at least for the majority of them, they have coaches that help them before they actually give their presentation, before they give their TED Talk. So, by the time they get up there, they're pretty polished. So if you're going to emulate anyone, emulate them. You're absolutely right there too. And then practice, that's a big one. I fully agree with you when it comes to getting better at anything. You don't just get better by, not doing it. You have to do it. You actually have to do it to get better at it. And practicing before you actually give a presentation, it's so helpful because it helps you to really nail down what you want to say and the way you want to say it, and then even how long you want to take to say it. Before I give presentations, I time myself. especially if I'm given a time. And well, I'm glad that you agree with me, because I have a friend who makes fun of me for the fact that if I'm given 45 minutes to present, I'm going to present in less than 45 minutes, typically between 44 and 45 minutes. I'll give myself maybe a minute buffer, but I'm going to be a little under to make sure that I don't go over the 45 minutes. And this guy, man, he always goes over his time and annoys the hell out of me, I swear.
Yeah, and then everybody after you has less time too.
There you go. Absolutely. That, especially when you're at a conference and people go over time when they're presenting, then that just throws the whole agenda off, and then I don't get to lunch on time. And I'm mad because I'm hungry.
Yeah, exactly. I had a professor in university who would just cut us off. When we hit the time limit, we were done, no matter if we were done with our presentation or not. So you learn to be under time there.
Nice. That's a great professor.
Yeah.
So when it comes to your presentations, do you have a process for putting them together? And if so, what is it?
Yeah, I do. So first I start with thinking of the audience. Who am I talking to? What are they interested in hearing? Because presentations, the key is to communicate something of worth to the audience. So it's not what do I want to talk about, it's what does my audience want to hear, and how much detail, what level. I think that's a really big one. And then I think about how much time I have.
You know everything, Callie. I didn't even know that when I first started giving presentations. I'm telling you, those first presentations, I wasn't thinking about no damn audience. I was getting up there, I was reading the slides, I was trying to get out of there as quickly as possible. The fact that you know all this so early on, kudos to you, man. Keep going.
Yeah, thanks. And then I think about my time limit. You know, like you said, I don't want to go over time, so I try to do maybe one slide a minute. Is probably a good cadence. And then I think about my content. What do I want to present? What are my main points? What do I want to get across? And I try to make sure every slide has a purpose. So I write in my notes section of the slide, okay, what's the purpose of this slide? Why am I showing this slide? Because if it doesn't have a purpose, I might as well cut it. If I don't need to talk for 25 minutes, you know, if you talk for 15 minutes and they give you 25, that's a plus in almost everybody's book. But if I have stuff to talk about, then I'll keep talking, but each slide should have a purpose. So then I try to look at the flow of the slides and put content on there. In general, I try to do maybe 1 or 2 bullet points, but mostly pictures or graphics on my slides, and then I'll talk to them. Recently, I've gotten to where I'll actually script out my slides, especially on Zoom meetings. That's kind of nice because then you can read your slides or just read your notes, and sometimes nobody ever knows. But if you're doing a live presentation as well, then I'll put maybe more bullet points on my slides as just reminders to myself of what I want to hit on. And then I'll run through it, you know, 4 or 5 times just on my own. I'll sit at my computer and make sure nobody's around in the office and just start talking to myself, talking through it, just to practice it and practice the flow and the timing. And then I'll practice with some friends or coworkers and say, hey, what do you think? Does this joke work? Does it not? I try to start my presentation with some sort of joke or some sort of hook just to get people interested. You know, if you can start with an interesting picture or a quote or a joke, then you've got your audience hooked and you're off to a good start. And then if I know I'm going to do it live in a certain area or a certain room, I'll see if I can book that conference room ahead of time and just practice once in there and do a dry run to just kind of get a feel for the room. If it's a Zoom call or something, I'll try to log on early, make sure I got all the technology set up, you know, all that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, it's quite a process. It takes a lot of effort to get a good presentation, I think.
You know what, Callie, this is making me really sad for myself because there's so much of what you do are things that it took me years to realize that I should do. So even just thinking about your audience, timing the presentation, now having a whole lot of text on there and having pictures instead, that is so key. Because oftentimes, if you have a whole lot of text, people will just read the slides and not even listen to you. And at that point, you're doing public reading, not public speaking. You know, and the fact that you realized this so early on, I mean, man, I tip my hat to you. These are things that took me years, and other people telling me you need to get better at this to actually get better at it. The fact that you had all this kind of down pat so early on, again, Man, I need to get myself together. Do you ever get nervous before you give a presentation? And if so, how do you deal with your nerves?
Oh yeah, every time. I think practice helps me deal with my nerves. You know, if I know that I've practiced it multiple times and I have it down, then that always helps. But I think sometimes I'm just gonna get nervous. So I'll sit here and maybe I'll try to tap my foot or grip my notebook or something, just to kind of calm my nerves down in somewhere that the audience doesn't see. I think that's key, not showing the audience that you're nervous, but you got to realize, I think everybody's nervous before they give a presentation, even the people that have done it a whole lot.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that if you're not nervous before you give a presentation, it's a sign you actually don't give a crap about the presentation. You know,
Yeah.
if you really care, you will be nervous because you care about getting people engaged, listen to what you have to say, that type of thing. So, I don't see nervousness necessarily as a bad thing. It's normal to have, at least as I said, if you care about what you're talking about. This has been
Yeah.
real interesting hearing more about you, Callie, and your approach to public speaking. The fact that you're way more polished than I was at your at your point in life got me thinking about my whole journey up until this point. But that's okay. We all got to get better with time. How can people get in touch with you, Callie?
Yeah, sure. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Callie Carpenter, or feel free to reach out to me as well. My personal email, callie.carpenter@outlook.com.
Wonderful.
So yeah, feel free to send me a ping on either of those.
Great. Well, everyone, that marks the end of another edition of Teach the Geek interviews. My name is Neil Thompson. I'm the founder of Teach the Geek. It's an online platform for science and engineering professionals. The first offering of the platform is the public speaking course, Teach the Geek to Speak. To learn more about it, you can go to teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Until next time, take care and stay safe. Thanks, Callie.
Thanks, Neil.